Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Mirko. We're smashing through these episodes, so first and foremost, thank you for tuning in always. Thank you for the amazing feedback, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it. This episode will be recorded and reposted on our podcast and our YouTube. And let's get started and enjoy yourself. So get yourself a cup of coffee. We're about to start. We have an amazing guest as usual. My hot water is boiling and we're gonna brew coffee before we get started. So today we have Mikael Jasin. Mikael is the 2019 Indonesia Barista Champion, and he was also the first Indonesian barista to reach the final at the World Barista Championship, and he reached the 4th spot. In Boston in 2019, he's also the 2020 Indonesia Barista Champion. So it's gonna be really good, very insightful, and he has a lot of Indonesian fans, so I hope that this is gonna be good, especially for anyone who never met him. And he's definitely a catch of a barista. So I'm gonna wet my paper for the AeroPress, so I'll be right here. And once we brew the AeroPress, we're going to be joined by Mikael, and you guys are in for a good treat. So what I really like about him is just the way he presents himself, and he's just been fighting to win what he wanted to win. Gonna add some coffee. I'm brewing a Mexican natural filter by Gridlock, a coffee roaster here in Melbourne, and usually I put 250 grams of water and about 13-14 grams of coffee, depending on how strong or light I want it and what type of coffee it is. Before we get started, I'm going to say hi to a few of you guys, because you guys are always amazing, supporting me. I'm gonna stir it, and then we do this, and this. So I'm gonna say hi to a few of you guys. Hey, Bianca, Vanessa, Ali, Ivancito, Deno, Now, good to see you again, Now. You're smashing these lives. Deno Bush, Nazila, John Gordon, Double Six, Annalie Barista, another one. I keep seeing you guys coming through. Good to see you. And Mikael is in the house as well, who had to teach me how to pronounce his name. So guys, hold yourself, because you're going to really have a treat. So get yourself a cup of coffee, brew whatever you feel like, and get ready, because you'll be able to ask questions to such an amazing professional in the industry. Hey, Mario Laping. So if you don't know Mikael well, I repeat it, it's 2019 and 2020 Indonesia Barista Champion, and the first ever Indonesian barista who reached the world stage finals. So yeah, he's a gun. So I'm very, very excited to meet him, have a chat, ask you some questions, and we'll read through your questions as well. Hey, that Fru, Bullet Lover, and Flurry. First of all, I hope all of you guys are good because of COVID. I hope you're safe. I hope your family good. I'm sending you all love, gratitude, and a lot of good vibes, because we need to stay tight as a coffee community. Jacob Minanoy is in the house. Hey Jacob, Lex Folk, good to see you. And so once we plunge this bad boy, we're going to talk to Mikael. So it should be very good, and very, very soon. Hey Phoenix, good to see you. And we're good. So get yourself a cup of coffee, because it's coffee with Mirko time, baby. All right, so I'm gonna request Mikael to join us right away. All right. Hey, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you. Your connection is extremely good compared to so far so good. Usually it takes a while to get up.
Yeah, it's okay.
First things first, how's you and your family doing with the whole situation? Are you guys good?
Yeah, we're okay. Everyone's healthy, everyone's safe. Um, the staff are okay. So yeah, I'm actually at the office now.
Oh, cool. You can give
Yeah,
us a little. You can give us a little tour later, then. And I'm glad that you got
yeah.
coffee too. So it's
This
like
is
we
actually
can.
tea.
Oh, tea. Oh, yeah. I saw your story. You were drinking some tea. That's right. What are you drinking now?
I'm drinking an oolong tea from Indonesia.
Oh, nice. I
What are you
like the
drinking?
long tea. I'm drinking a natural Mexican from a very small local roastery in Melbourne. So
Right.
just trying to get that caffeine in.
Yeah.
Um, so first questions for you, just to get things started, is how how did you start your coffee journey?
I actually started in Melbourne. Um, I was a student. I needed a job, and I was going to Manchester Press. Yeah, are you in Melbourne? You're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar
Yeah,
with Manchester Press too. So yeah,
yeah. So I was working in retail back then, but I used to go to Manchester Press every day for coffee. So I thought, why not, apply to be whatever at Manchester Press. I didn't have any hospital experience back then, so I just like dropped my resume, and then I was like, just put me wherever, and then they took me in, and that's basically how I started in the hospital industry. And then after 6 months, they finally taught me how to make coffee, and rest is history, as they say.
you read my mind. I was like, yeah, well, we know what you did after that. Um,
Yeah.
that's That's pretty cool, and I like that. A lot of us, I think, it's coffee that finds us in a lot of
Right.
cases. We don't
Yeah.
we don't search for coffee, so you know we all heard stories of lawyers dropping out of uni and coffee is calling for them rather than the law school. So I'm glad that you
Yeah.
found coffee because we're all very grateful for what you did for Indonesia and Melbourne and everywhere that you've been going with your coffee skills. So and then you started competing at some stage, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I competed first time I think 2015. Sasha won that year. I competed in Coffee and Good Spirits because like I knew my goal was to compete in the barista comps, but back then I couldn't, like I didn't really have the confidence. It was very new to me. I didn't speak that much English yet back then, so I wanted to do something that is not as serious, but still sort of, give me a feeling about what's expected of you when you compete, that kind of stuff. So yeah, 2015 was like when I first started, and then I came second out of like four people, six people. Um, and then I tried again in 2016 and came second again in Coffee and Good Spirits. So yeah,
Nice.
that's pretty much it.
And after winning a few competition, you were the first ever Indonesian barista to reach the final of the finals of the WBC stage. How
Yeah.
how important was this achievement for you, but also for Indonesia? Because I feel that every barista we also represent our own countries, and
Mm.
it can be a little bit of responsibility. But how important was that for
Yeah.
you?
Super important. And like I always say, it's not because of me, but I feel like us coming fourth or like reaching the final was a reflection on how far the Indonesian coffee industry has come. Because like I wouldn't be able to go that far if we don't have the level of competition that we have back home, or if we don't have the level of coffee or the level of understanding about how to make coffee in that level. You know what I mean? Like you always see like Australia in the final or Japan or the States, and it's not uncommon for them because that the coffee industry in those countries are big and advanced, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of Indonesia, I think the first time we competed as a nation was 2013, if I'm not wrong. So we've only been competing for 7 years or 6 years last year. So it was just a natural progression. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't me, it would be someone else. They would still come pretty high in terms of placing. So I guess I just came at the right time and at the right moment. But it was very important because it's like not just for me, but I think everyone back home, all the barista back home, kind of feel like it's a confirmation that we are on that level.
Yeah.
And then I saw it this year, 2020, when we did the national championship. Everyone raised the bar higher compared to last year because I think now they have that sort of sense of responsibility, right? Or, you know, like we know that we gotta, well, like for lack of better word, like beat Mikael, and if you want to beat me, then you have to do better than I did last year. So everyone sort of raised the bar, which I think is good, right? Like it's sort of like when Sasha won the Worlds in 2015, everyone raised their bar because if you want to be, you know, a world champion, you kind of know where the level is, and then you got to do better than that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can really see that what you specified about a country. We can see that very clearly with South Korea, you know, with, you know, Caleb and Umpo, Anon. Like, it's just, you know, and now it's like, oh, you know, people almost look for South Korean baristas here in Melbourne, like for real. Like, it's become almost like a trend, which is great for South Korea. And you starting pretty much Indonesia. I think it's fantastic. And look, personally, I'm sharing some data here, but the vast majority of my followers are actually from Indonesia. So there's a strong coffee culture, like for real, like it's huge. And I think that you've done such a fantastic job. Now, when it comes down to your competition, I think that I can really see how mental strength, you know, is a huge component. Does running at 4 a.m. in the morning influence your discipline and practice? Is that one of the secrets?
Yeah, big time. I think, well, it actually started in 2018. So I was tired of coming second. So I was trying to figure out a way of, you know, like how do I win, right? So I started looking through a lot of different athletes in sports and also world level competitors. I talked to Caleb, I talked to Shinsaku, and then they were all like, especially with Shin. Shin was like, yeah, I'll wake up at 4 and meditate and, you know, start pouring latte art before I start my shift at 6 a.m. at St. Ali. So, like, okay, yeah. I don't know, Shin is a totally different animal, man. Like Shinsaku and Caleb as well, they're like super dedicated, right? So that's what was missing from my training. You know, I was just training for training rather than training with a purpose. And a lot of it, from a lot of the books that I read, and then from talking to Shin, I realized that like being ready mentally is also a big thing. And for me, I can't really meditate that long. For me, it's more like when I run, then that's when I start thinking, I start talking to myself, you know, like finding clarity. So yeah, for me, it's just it's a way of preparing mentally, but also it's a way of being disciplined, right? Like you choose to wake up at 4, you choose to run even though it sucks, and it becomes part of like a discipline thing. And if you're committed to that, I feel like it's easier for me to commit to my trail that day. And, and yeah, it just starts from that. And then even after competition is finished, you know, I still wake up. Maybe not at 4, but I still wake up early and try to run or
Yeah.
work out and all that.
And I think that this comfort zone is probably the zone where you want to be, because those days that you don't really feel like it are the days that if you show up, it means even more on a mental level.
Yeah.
And I think, look, ultimately, especially when you're like in a big stage like WBC, it's always hard to keep cool. I spoke to Len Butler, and for example, that's the funniest that I spoke to, because I was telling him how his routine made me feel almost like in a meditative state. Like I was like, man, I'm
he
so
looks super
soothing.
in zone. Yeah.
And then he said to me, well, funny, because I was like shitting my pants in the backstage. I was like, man, I was super nervous. I'm like,
Yeah,
really? Like, so it's incredible. And I think, you get, you prepare yourself and you work so hard for, weeks and months,
yeah,
years. And then it all comes down to those very
15
small
minutes.
15
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
That's what you get. But probably better it's only 15, because if it was half an hour, it would be even more intense.
exactly. Yeah,
So, from there, you obviously been doing different things. You got so good coffee.
yeah.
You train, you consult, Midtown, which I've been to Midtown, and you do a lot of different things. But what aspect of coffee makes you really keep going at it? What keeps you really motivated? What's your core passion?
Um, well, I only figured this out after WBC last year, actually. Like, I feel like I always say that coffee is an agent of change. Um, what I mean by that is that coffee touches people's life in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? Like, in Melbourne, for example, like people are so addicted to coffee. Like, you can go to your local coffee shop 3 times a day, and that's normal, right? And then if you don't have that, then your day doesn't feel the same. So in that way, coffee becomes an agent of change in your life. And in like a more profound level, like as a lot of baristas do, that's their way of living, right? Like, that's how they support themselves, that's how they support their family. And if you go even deeper, um, in the origin, like in countries like Indonesia, Mexico, Uganda, Ethiopia, like coffee is how people support their family and their community. Like they grow coffee, and if that year's harvest is gone, then basically they will die out of hunger because it's such an important part of their livelihood that it becomes like coffee becomes the biggest agent in terms of the change of livelihood. So like I feel like if you can somehow make better coffee, then you can change someone's life for the better. And that's sort of what made me start SSG as well. So good because I realized, funny enough, after I opened Middletown, that having a cafe is not really my dream. A lot of baristas started, yeah, a lot of baristas started with that dream, right? Like you always think that you want to open a cafe,
With a
and then
roaster in the back, and that's it. That's
exactly,
a
yeah,
dream.
exactly. And then after I did that, I realized that it's like operating a cafe actually took me away from the coffee side of things because you have to do paperwork, you have to do a lot of things, right? Whereas I was in coffee because I love the coffee side of it. I love interacting with customers. I love making coffee, and then now I figured that I actually like the farming side of it. Going to origin, talking to farmers, coming up with processing techniques, that kind of stuff.
Which obviously was actually a strong component of one of your routines, because that was
Yeah.
such a complex, and you really went into depth with the explanation of the process. And I
Mhm.
find it quite unique what you just said, because I know a good friend of mine, and he's from Indonesia, and he's been in Melbourne for years. And I've asked this question to him in person. I said, what's your dream in coffee? And he said, my grandpa is a coffee farmer, and my dream is to go back there and just raise the bar in terms of quality.
Mm.
But I was lucky enough to work with some coffee roaster who really started looking at Indonesia more as a single rather than just a blender. And
Yeah.
and Wahana State or other amazing origins where they're like, wow, like really, it makes you raise
Yeah.
your eyebrows. And I think where we were, it's like when we were started, it's like you kind of started about Indonesian baristas, with the same trend. You can also match that, mirror that with farming.
Yeah.
So I think that's just nature of business, and I really hope that Indonesia will start grow more and more, especially after this pandemic, because then it'll be like, okay, well, let's, we have more market now, which I really hope so for you, for sure. So, there's a lot of people going to rewatch this and who are watching. You're definitely inspiring to a lot of baristas. I would say, especially from Indonesia, which is normal. What sort of words would you have for them to get started? I think that a lot of times people listen to their parents, or they just don't think and don't see becoming a barista as viable. But what kind of words do you have for them if it's their
Um,
passion?
yeah, well, it's very true, like especially in Asian culture, right? Like listening to your parents is a big thing. Um, so a lot of my barista friends, Indonesians or Southeast Asians, East Asians, they always have this dilemma, right? Like they either continue their parents' business or go for like a more traditional jobs or chase their dream, right, in becoming a barista. But I think I always say, especially if you're not in Australia, you cannot just be a barista forever, because obviously by just doing that role, there's like a ceiling, uh, there's a ceiling where you will max out your earning potential if you're just a barista. You know what I mean? Like in Australia, the ceiling is pretty high, right? But then if in other countries, like Indonesia, if you just want to be a barista forever, then you're not gonna be able to support your
Sustain.
family, yeah, or sustain the lifestyle that you want. So I think my advice is always try to upskill your coffee knowledge, because coffee is such a big industry, right? Like barista is just one small part of it, but like you can learn how to roast, or if you like the cafe side of things, you can learn how to manage a cafe, operate a cafe, or if you're really interested in the bean, then you can go to Origin, start processing coffee, or if you're a green bean buyer, that kind of stuff, or um, what else? Like there's so much. Or work for like a machine supplier, like sell coffee machines or grinders, or because that's the good thing about coffee, right? If you like engineering, you just work for a coffee machine supplier. Or if you like, the finance side of it, then you run a cafe. If you are super nerdy, you can be a barista trainer. But yeah, like never settle to just become a barista. I know a lot of baristas want to just be a barista. That's like the romantic dream, but reality is you gotta upskill. That's why I moved back to Indonesia. Like I was living a very comfortable and happy life in Melbourne, but I felt like in terms of career progression, as nice as Melbourne was, I felt like I couldn't grow as quickly compared to if I moved to Indonesia, because being in Indonesia, we're so much closer to the origin. I could learn back with Common Grounds. I could learn a lot of different aspects of coffee industry rather than when I was in Melbourne. I was just a head barista, which was fine and it was fun, but it wasn't what I want.
I think
Yeah.
you hit the nail. The underlying aspect of it there is also once you analyze, I think it's a combination between analyzing what your true passion is, which could be people, finance, like you said,
Mm,
roasting coffee, but also your type of personality, so introverted versus extroverted. I mean, I
yeah.
usually make the example by saying that I once was in the roaster, because I used to work for a coffee roaster, but I was on the road meeting people, meeting wholesale clients, and once I was standing and I was like, okay, you should be try to roast. And I was like there for 15 minutes. I was like, all right, so what do we do now? It's like, we wait. And I was like, oh man, it's not me, to
Yeah,
spend
yeah,
a whole day inside. But the roaster who was roasting there probably cannot even imagine himself being out there hustling, talking to people all day like I was. So I think once you
mm,
individualize, you visualize what's your core passion and how your personality, then you can marry them and find what really would work for
yeah,
you,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And still be in coffee, right?
Correct. There's so many
Yeah,
options. That's correct.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Or in a cafe, managing a cafe, being a barista, buying a green bean buyer.
yeah.
Then you have trainers, a roaster. You can start roast
Endless.
and then you become wholesale,
Yeah,
accessories.
yeah, yeah. So much
That's
possibilities.
endless. It's
Yeah.
endless. Yeah, 100%. Which I think that's what, some people sometimes you can get caught up by a little bit greediness, but it's
Mm,
not voluntary greediness. It's like, oh my God, I could make so much money if I did this. But then in the long run, you're not winning, you're losing. It's better if you
yeah.
start from what you really love and then you just progressively build on top of them for sure. Because you're pushed by, you're motivated, like, you know, your 4 a.m. in the morning runs. For whoever tuned in, Mikael's secret to win is wake up at 4 a.m. and go for a run. So be my guest if you can in your country at the moment. Now, out of the box question, I like to break in between me in the middle. What's going to be your next tattoo?
My next what, sorry?
Tattoo.
My next tattoo.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, man. Like, I was supposed to get one next week in Melbourne. So, I go to this place called Blue Lady. They used to be on top of Manchester Press.
Okay.
But then now they moved to Hardware Lane, just around the corner.
Yeah.
So I hit him up like a couple of months ago. I was like, oh, you know, I'm coming back to Melbourne. We became really good friends after a while. And then I basically told him you can just draw up whatever, and then I'll come and get it done. And he was in the process of drawing whatever. So I don't know. I know who's gonna tattoo me next. I don't know what I'm getting next.
Well, Bianca's suggesting to get a unicorn tattoo. I don't know about that, but you know, each their own.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe you don't look like the unicorn kind of. But anyway,
no, I don't have a unicorn. No.
I guess you missed that on business. So Melbourne was obviously a big part of your journey.
Yeah.
And you know, you come here and you know, I mean, hopefully WBC will be able to still keep going.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that will happen, because then we will be able to meet in person as well, because I'll be there. And there's a lot of people on my list that I want to meet and greet and have a good cup of coffee with. But also, you know, obviously you're going to be there competing.
Yeah.
If things are changing, when are you planning? Are you planning to come a little bit earlier, or a month earlier in preparation, or are you just going to come the same weekend?
No, so what we learned in Boston was I came to Boston 7 days or 8 days before WBC, and there was enough time for me to scramble around, try to find supplies and all that. But with Melbourne, I was planning to come 12 days earlier, just because I know Australia has very strict laws on fresh produce. So I was very worried about not being able to bring, you know, milk in, fruits, you know, like all those sort of ingredients, even like trays, because you're not allowed to bring wood or bamboo into Australia, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I was just gonna come in early, go to, I don't know, South Melbourne Market or like Target or whatever, and then scramble for supplies. So with this change, I'm thinking about the same timeline, so maybe like 10 days or 2 weeks before the first day of competition. And that's just
All right. We got you. No, it's okay.
yeah, so
12 days before.
so yeah, around, I think that's to be, because I don't like to come in. I know competitors sometimes they go like 2 days before comms. That's just too crazy. It's too
That's tight, yeah.
it's scary. Because like things can go wrong, right? Like
Yeah.
there's always something that goes wrong. So being there early sort of just like it's more of a peace of mind. It's not like we're, you know, like UFC fighters who need to get acclimatized or whatever, but um, it's just for a peace of mind. But then November, like the weather would be nice anyway. In like May, I was very worried about the changes in temperature affecting the taste of the coffee, because it's, you know, it's warm and humid in Jakarta, and then May in Melbourne would be somewhat cold and dry. Yeah, so I wasn't sure how that was gonna affect the coffee. That's why I tried to come early as well.
And are you thinking of I mean, not to, you know, don't share it here, obviously, but what are you thinking around to change with the routine potentially because of the virus? That's a question that actually someone asked yesterday when I was interviewing Aga, because, you know, it's all very a gray area. We're in a limbo because we don't know if it's going to go ahead. It should be, but we don't know also what changes is going to, they're going to look like from, because Melbourne's going towards winter. We don't know whether we're going to have a spike or not with the virus.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like a middle ground. So, but, I think it's important maybe to think around that, because maybe they're going to live stream it and avoid to have a lot of people in there. I don't know. It's just something that.
Well, me personally, definitely you got to change the coffee. You can't use the same coffee that you were going to use in May, because then by November, it would be like old crop, right? Like having WBC in May meant that you either use an old-ish Indonesian coffee or a fresh Central American, like Central America harvest in January, February-ish. So by May, it would be pretty fresh, or an old Ethiopian crop. But then, because it got postponed to November, now you have a lot more options. For me personally, I don't think this is like telling people what I'm going to do, because it's quite obvious. We obviously want to use Indo coffee again, you know what I mean? Like, because we obviously used one last year. We're not going to go to WBC and not use any, right? There would be a step back in my mind, because my goal is to improve Indonesian coffee, right? And do better in terms of placing in WBC. That's not a secret. That's just like a natural, like a logical progression. So with this WBC being postponed, we have a chance of producing better Indo coffee, because we're harvesting next month. In Indonesia, like majority of the farms are harvesting next month. So yeah, hopefully we come up with something better than last year. So it kind of worked for us, but I'm not sure, for other competitors how that's affecting their preparation.
Gotcha. That's very. Thanks for sharing that, and I love that you potentially bring in Indonesian coffee, because I think it's the right thing. There was this lady, she owned a cafe. She still owns a cafe here in Seddon, so where it is probably, so western of Melbourne, which is really cool for coffee at the moment. And she once asked us to have her own blend, but she only wanted a blend made out of only Indonesian coffee, because she's from Indonesia. I think that patriotic sense really kicks in, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's just, because you're not just giving the judges a coffee, you're giving them a story, an experience, a connection, and ultimately whatever you're delivering. So I think that it makes absolute sense. I mean, you could go in with the Panama, but then it's like, well, I'm going to be like a lot of others.
Yeah, especially from a producing country, right? Like, you can't go into WBC and not use it, because then what are you saying about your own country, right? You know what I mean? Like,
That's true too.
I really like you gotta be realistic, but you also gotta be pushing boundaries as well. That's why last year we used one Indonesian beans out of 3 courses, because, in a way we're saying, we did this last year as an experiment. It's going in the right direction, but it's not there yet. So the goal this year for me is just, to improve what I did last year. Whether it's gonna be all Indonesian coffee or 2 Indonesian coffee or 1 Indonesian coffee, I don't even know the answer to that question, because we haven't tried the coffee yet. Because obviously you want to be very objective as well, right? You don't want to go there and bomb because you're like forcing the coffee that is not on that level. You still want to do well. So it's that maintaining that balance between, I guess, delivering it to the right audience, but also delivering your message as well.
100%, 100%, and that message is so important as well to, even out the gap between commercial and specialty, in my opinion. So you guys represent a lot more than just, being a barista. And we got a question and a half, which they're connected by Jessica and Daniel. Thanks for coming in again. I always see you guys. So Jessica's asking, which process do you love the most and why? And Daniel said, that's really interesting and I'm curious about the process, probably experimental, because obviously you
Yeah.
like experimental, process as we learned last year.
Um, I know you're gonna have Scott Rao in a couple of days,
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be on Friday, yeah.
I'm gonna apologize to him in advance because I like anaerobic natural coffee. Uh,
Well,
you know how it is with natural coffee, right? Uh, no, but I really like it because one, I like, fruity stuff. I like natural wine, which is also pretty funky. I like funky tea. I like tropical fruits. But I really think especially with Indonesian coffee, right? We are not blessed with like exotic varietals like geishas or, cedras, all that sort of stuff. So and then a lot of the varietals that we have are Robusta derivatives because our climate and soil are very challenging. That's why they have to plant a lot of Robustas or, like cross Arabica and Robusta into each other to survive the condition. So a lot of our coffees have that, like spicy and earthy tone. And I think the way to improve that is not to come up with a better washing station or start planting geishas in Indonesia, but I think the way to improve that is to actually come up with a processing that suits that variety and also improve it. It's actually my topic for 2020 for my barista comps, the Indonesian barista competition 2020. And my answer to that is actually doing an anaerobic natural coffee because
okay.
with a lot of our varietals.
Hey guys, not sure what happened. I'm gonna see what's happening here. Hey Bianca, Marcos, the connection must have dropped. Instagram must be getting bombarded. I'll re-invite Mikael right now because I'm thinking he's probably. Hey Jessica, sorry for the whatever technical issues that we've had because that's not fun, but things happen. Not always good to plan. Let's have a look. Let's have a look if you can join us. While we're here, such a shame. He was finishing his sentence and maybe hopefully he join us again. But it is what it is. Hey, Brew Theory. We got abruptly interrupted by Instagram. Something happened, so hopefully, here it is. All right.
What happened there?
I'm not sure, man. I just know that I just like it went all flat. I was like, oh, I'm live again. It says so. Anyway, that's funny. Apologies for that. Whatever happened, but Instagram probably is getting bombarded with lives at the moment. So we'll see. Anyway, we were at you explaining about the 2020 story behind the
Oh
Indonesian
yeah,
2020 Barista Championship. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, my thing was, what do I call it? Oh, I call the concept GST, geo-specific treatment. You can actually see this on YouTube. They upload it on YouTube. Maybe I'll give you a link after this so people can. And
Please, yeah, I'd love to see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just saying that you have to first, like before you approach coffee processing, you have to look at the condition in that climate. So if you're in Brazil, you see what's specific in Brazil. If you're in Indonesia, you see what's specific in Indonesia, and then find a coffee variety that works for that condition, which in Indonesia was a lot of. We have this variety called Kartika, which is a cross between Typica and Robusta. Like it's very
Okay.
common. Yeah, you just find it
Yeah.
everywhere because it just grows everywhere because it's so strong. And then once you find that variety that works for you, how do you improve that variety using post-harvest processing method? And then for me, like what I believe in that if you process it with anaerobic natural process, then you can improve the flavor using the base that you already have. Obviously, if you process a beautiful geisha with anaerobic natural, then you're taking away more than you're giving into the coffee, right? Because then you're losing that variety specific traits, like the tea, like the elegance of geisha, it's just gonna go away. But then if you start with something that is Robusta derivative, you're actually giving more flavors using the anaerobic processing rather than taking away the flavors. So I think like um, that's why I like it so much, especially in Indonesian coffee, anaerobic natural process. Um, because I've done anaerobic natural process on Indonesian coffee, I've done wash carbonic maceration on Indonesian coffee. They both improve the coffee quality, but I feel like anaerobic natural is more suitable for Indonesian coffee rather than like a wash carbonic for Indonesian coffee. Still
Got you.
great,
And
yeah.
yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, Daniel is hitting it on the nail. He said, I believe an aerobic process can highlight varieties from origins that we're not so used with. So
Yeah,
I think that just sums that up quite well. You also want to try one of those coffees. So hopefully, Daniel, you can make it as a judge for the WBC, and then you'll be able to try to
um,
try
yeah.
the
Well,
three
we're
drinks.
actually looking to export our harvest this year. Um,
That's it. That's cool.
yeah, so hopefully, folks in outside of Indonesia can actually try the coffee that we process this year,
That would be really
because
cool.
yeah, like from like before 2020, we were just processing coffee for Common Grounds because that was basically my job for Common Grounds. But then with So Good Coffee Company, we actually, um, I always say it's kind of like Project Origin, but
Mm,
specifically for Indonesian coffee. That's what we want to do, right?
yeah.
So we'll be processing a lot of Indonesian coffees differently and then, export it overseas.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a small but still quite good market here in Melbourne. There's a few shops that I know that they always look for international roasters. So
Mm,
because that's one of their point of difference. I mean, you know them, Little Rogue, Shamble.
yeah,
Shout out to those guys. Amazing job here, and they always have that foreign overseas roaster as their singles. So
yeah.
yeah, I would buy you a coffee from them for sure, or even
Oh, thank
online.
you.
And Daniel, I think, is very keen, so he's gonna send you a DM about it. So check your
Sweet,
request
yeah.
after the
Of
live.
course.
No, that's amazing, man. I think we really covered as well. We can safely say that processing an Indonesian coffee and pretty much is like a Bermuda Triangle for you and your journey and your
Mm,
career and your passion. I think that somewhere we hit the three angles of that triangle, and I think it's where your love resides, which is great. I think that you found what works for you, and I really hope that the 2020 WBC will go ahead, but also that you get an amazing score, and I'm sure you will, because I mean, which other baristas wake up at 4 to go running again? Sorry to keep bringing it up, but it's yeah, that's not me. Now, I've been between COVID because I used to use, I like to ask these questions even before COVID, but what would you like to see in the future of coffee? Maybe even in the future of Indonesian coffee, we can be specific. But what's your dream in terms of, I really would love to see this happening?
good question. I never really thought about it. Um,
That's okay.
as I guess the business has started to change, right? Like in Indonesia, cafes now sell iced coffee by the liter. So it's 1 liter bottle, they send it to your home, and then
Cool.
you can send them the empty bottle. So it's changing the way the business works. Like with us, because we're also a training center, but then we can't hold training. We started an online coffee subscription. So, like people can still learn coffee on a monthly basis. And then all the material is in Indonesian, so they can still learn coffee without leaving their house. So I guess my hope is that, um, I guess for us to realize that. the industry, like the coffee industry, is not just, ordering flat whites and drinking it, but there's so much more to it. And then, and to keep it local, I guess, that's what's good about it, right? Like now, uh, people become very hyper local because that's their only option, and that's good, like support your local cafes, your local coffee businesses. And my hope is basically that, like start paying more attention to what's around you and just support them.
Yeah, don't give for granted your locals. I think that's a good message for sure, because I think that
Yeah.
now more than ever we gotta come tight as a community, and I think
Mm.
we're hopefully gonna see. I think that we're also gonna see a shift as far as the overall experience and service. I think that for
Mm.
many years, and people who've been watching my previous episodes have probably heard this a few times, but for many years we've been focused so much on the cup and on the jug, on the machine, which is cool because we really grew the product quality. I think that we lost a little bit that connection with the humans, and with
Mm.
a lot of quarantine and isolation from community, I think that now the barista job can also be very much about that overall experience to make sure that it really matches the quality of the products and not just,
Yeah.
here's your amazing coffee, thank you very much, see you later. I think that could be it, because people will try to connect because it's like, whoa, my God, it's a human being. It's been a
Mm.
month or two that I haven't seen someone, but I'm allowed to grab a coffee. I want to ask about this coffee. So I think that could be a different, yeah, I think it's definitely something that could happen. I would love to see that, to be honest. Now, WBC obviously is, primary objective, in a few months, but after that, what's next on your planet? What's really something that you're like, what? As soon as the comp is over, I'm gonna really put all my money. I'm gonna double down on my next thing.
Yeah, so I'm planning to retire after Melbourne from the competition scene. Um, just because I feel like you can only compete so many times before you just end up repeating yourself and become very dull and not inspired. So obviously the goal is now to grow so good coffee company, focus more on the processing, uh, because like yeah, sure, WBC is my goal, but the bigger goal is to actually improve the coffee industry, right? The Indonesian coffee industry. And I think a big part of it, hopefully, like people will start talking about Indonesian coffee after WBC because they see, like what I brought on stage and all that. And then the next step is to back that up with the actual product, right? Because competition is always about presenting an idea, and then after that it will trickle down to the actual coffee community, kind of like Perder did EK in 2013, and then after that you see EKs everywhere. Maxwell talked about water in 2014, 2015, and then after that people started talking about water. So I want to have the same sort of effect in the industry. Like I'll present an idea about Indonesian coffee, and hopefully after that it will start like a wave of realization that Indonesian coffee are so much more than, the spicy, earthy, herbaceous sort of traditional sense. So yeah, just my focus is to produce better Indonesian coffee, and hopefully produce the next Indonesian barista champion, whoever that is. That's part of it, right? Like part of being a champion, I think, is to regenerate, because you cannot just. It's kind of like what Sash is doing with all the Ona baristas. That's why they're like so good, because then
There's a few of them too.
exactly, like he's teaching all of them how to become a barista champion, and you see them at cupping room in Hong Kong from Capo to Dawn. Like so yeah, hopefully I can mentor someone after WBC Melbourne, and mentor that person to be a better champion than I was. So I am.
I like that. And you make a round because it's 2020, so I think it's perfect and even as well, to retire from comp instead of 2021. It just looks
It's just
good. It's an even
yeah,
split.
and
I
it's
get
in
it.
Melbourne. Like you can't write it any better than this. Like I started my coffee career
Meant
in
to be.
Melbourne. Exactly. It's like full circle.
That's right. It's you're closing and reopening a second. I think it's such a good thing what you said. I think there is a need for, you know, for you to let someone else to be on the throne of Indonesia and to grow to the next level and to mentor, inspire people. So 100% I agree with what you said. And I like where you went through the entire interview with the coffee, because I used to love to provide this single origin from, we used to have a series called The Underdogs, which was like origins where you would not expect certain, you know, banging flavors. We had Myanmar, we had Indonesia, and other stranger countries were not so used. And I used to love to see the face of baristas or consumers like, oh, fuck, that's really good. Like, say is it from Ethiopia? And I know it's from Indonesia, you know, and like, oh, wow, I thought. So I think that's really a cool mission that you have, man, and I really, really appreciate what you shared. We kind of covered everything in almost 60 minutes, which is crazy that we've been talking for an hour. I never have issues talking, so that's good. If anyone has any questions for Mikael, please send them through. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions, is there anything that you want to kind of say or that you left off the table, like a plug-in time where you want, you know, people to go and check out anything? Yeah.
Well, I see a lot of Indonesians here, so support your local business and subscribe to my subscription service, please.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but it's great because we're actually a Barista Hustle certified coaching facility in Indonesia. Obviously, you know, because we're still kind of within the Saint Ali family, if you really like draw a line, and so. We can't do the actual physical coaching, right? So I think the online thing is a way to learn, and it's very cheap. It's how much is it? 150. It's like $15 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, which might not be cheap in terms of like the level of income here, but I think it's still very affordable for baristas who want to upskill. I made it in a very linear sense. So I start with how you make coffee, you know, like really going step by step. I don't teach the why in the beginning because I feel like it's the same when you go into a job in a cafe in Melbourne, right? They don't teach you why you have to do certain things. They just teach you, you know, like press this button, time like this, steam the milk like this, pour it. Because then, you know, like you just need to make coffees first, right? And then eventually we'll learn the why, you know, like why you have to do certain things. And eventually with this course, I would like to teach people to give back to the coffee community, you know, like become a creator, become an innovator, you know, like come up with signature beverages, or in my own personal journey, you know, like start producing my own coffee at origin and giving that back to the world. So that's the kind of learning curve that I want to provide with this subscription service. Currently it's only available in Indonesian. I was thinking of making it like bilingual, Indonesian and English, but from our survey, the demand was almost 100% Indonesian language first. So we'll see. Maybe eventually.
Have you thought about? I mean, this is a little bit more my field because I love this sort of conversation around innovation, business, social media, marketing is really something that, well, obviously that's my agency, but also something that I'm passionate about in combination with coffee. Have you thought about, or are you already doing one-on-one sessions sort of on a Zoom kind of conversation? Like, you know, like what you and I are doing, but more in a private way in terms of, you know, whether it's paid or free. I mean, ideally free for a few sessions to kind of get the, you know, a little bit of exposure, but also go to everyone for some basics. But is that something that you would be open to do maybe in the future, or a one-on-one or something like that?
I did think about it. So it was between providing like a one-on-one consultation service, because that's what we do as well, right? As a company, we consult on, you know, on cafes and baristas and all that. But between that and the subscription, we chose subscription first. But then, the one-on-one is definitely on the pipe, and it's something that I'm open to do.
I think, I think I think it's really cool for businesses, even like yourself, even if it's a personal brand point of view, to reinvent and innovate. I think it's really, I mean, there's already a couple of people here that are going crazy, but I'm like, yes, please, oh my God. Yeah, I think, you know, I see a lot of people, even famous chefs, doing different things, you know, cooking together or whatnot. But, you know, if you want to cook with him, then you have to pay, but up to a certain degree it's free. You know, there's a lot of different things, which I find very interesting. I think it's really cool to see different professionals to reinvent themselves. And yeah, I'd love to see more about you. And I think that definitely people would follow you. You know, I see how you are on your social media, which is a strong presence. And yeah, you're killing it. I love it. I love it, dude. I really feel grateful for you giving us an hour of your time. I know you're a busy man. An hour is a lot of, you know, it's 4 competitions.
Who's busy these days? No one's busy these days.
Well, but you compete. That's
yeah.
4 practices, right? Well, 2 plus cleaning. I'm sending you much love. Thank you for coming on board. I really look forward to seeing you in action. Maybe to meet you sneakily for 5 minutes after.
For sure. Let's have coffee when I'm in Melbourne. I'm planning to stay for a month, like so 2 weeks before WBC and 2 weeks after.
Good. You hit me up. I hit you up. Yeah, man, for sure. Maybe we'll get a tattoo together too.
Where's your favorite cafe in Melbourne?
You gotta pick a suburb and give me 10 spots.
That's true. That's what I love about Melbourne.
I think probably I love a lot of shops in the city. You can't go wrong. A Little Rogue, Shamble, big shout out to them. I love the boys. I mean, Market Lane, Industry Beans, Vacation Coffee. I look after the boys. Good friends of mine too. You got a Little Temperance, which is a little bit tucked away. It's a little secret spot. Man, there's a lot. A Manchester Press is still very good. Brother Babadan, Patricia, Commonplace. We can keep going all day. That's just a city.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah, we'll catch up when I'm there for sure.
You're all right, man. Promise. All right, cool. Stay safe, take care, and I'll look forward to it, man. Thanks for coming on board.
All right.
Take it easy, my friend.
Thanks, man.